Hello viewers, welcome to my channel Harvinder Kaur. Today I am going to explain you the poem A Photograph written by Shelley Towson. It is from the book Hornbill, prescribed for class 11. Children, before I proceed, I request you all to kindly get hold of your book and read the poem with me, because otherwise if you are just listening to my explanation, you may forget it very soon. So get hold of the book and I'll explain you line wise. So it is at page number 11. The poem is at page number 11. So open at page number 11 of your Hornbill. And as I told you, a photograph written by Shelley Towson is what we are going to do in this video. Class, what does the word photograph make you feel or make you think about? A photograph is something, that connects you to something that has happened in your past. It's an event of your past, and whenever you look at the photograph, you remember that time, you remember that moment when that photograph was taken. Obviously, as such, the moment can be a happy one, or you may feel nostalgic and sad if you feel sad looking at the photograph, because you have lost that person and you have lost that moment of your life. So in this poem also, Shelley Towson talks about her mother who is no more. She looks at the photograph of her mother and she remembers her and she feels sad that her mother is no more with her now. So let's read the first stanza. The first stanza goes like this. The cardboard shows me how it was when the two girl cousins went paddling, each one holding one of my mother's hands, and she, the big girl, some 12 years or so. All three stood still to smile through their hair at the uncle with the camera. A sweet face, my mother's. That was before I was born. And the sea, which appears to have changed less, watched the terribly transient fate. So in this stanza, the poet tells us about her mother, and she says, in the first line, she says, the cardboard shows me how it was. The word cardboard here refers to the photograph. And sometimes you are asked a question, why the word cardboard is used? The word cardboard is used because cardboard has a rough surface. So whenever the poet looks at the photograph of a mother who is dead long time back, the feelings that arise are very, very disturbing. And she feels nostalgic. It's a very rough moment, you can say, for her. Rough feelings are generated. She feels nostalgic. She feels a sense of loss. So the word cardboard refers to the photograph. The cardboard shows me how it was. The cardboard, that is a photograph, shows me how was the childhood of my mother when the two girl cousins went paddling. Paddling here means to move in water. So in that photograph, along with the mother, there are two cousins who also went with the mother for that picnic on the beach. So all in all, there are three girls in the photograph, the mother and her two cousins. And how old was the mother? Let's read in the next two lines. The poet says, each one holding one of my mother's hands. Now these two girl cousins are standing on either sides of the poet's mother. One is standing on the left side, one is standing on the right side, and the mother is at the center. So all these three girls are standing still and they're looking at the uncle who is clicking the photograph. So here two girl cousins refer to the poet's mother's cousin, and then in the third line the poet says, each one holding one of my mother's hands, and these two girl cousins were holding the mother's hand, and she, the big girl, and she here refers to the poet's mother when that photograph was taken. So how old is the mother in that photograph? She was some 12 years or so. The mother in the photograph was 12 years at that time, because that photograph was taken when the mother herself was a child, and it's written she the big girl. She was the eldest of all these three girls. Now what these girls are doing? Obviously, when a photograph is being clicked, you stand still, you look at the camera and you smile. All three stood still to smile through their hair. So these three girls, they stood still to smile at the uncle. Through their hair means, since they are on a beach, the wind is blowing and the hair is scattered on the face. Their hair is scattered on the face and they are looking at the uncle who is clicking the photograph. The poetic device used here is alliteration, stood still. The sir sound is repeated. Stood, sir sound is repeated in the next word, still. So when you have two consonant sounds repeated, then it is alliteration. So all three stood still to smile through their hair at the uncle with the camera. A sweet face. Now the poet tells us about her mother, that her mother had a sweet face. My mother's, that was before I was born. Since the photograph was taken when the mother herself was a child, so the poet was not born that time. So she says, my mother had a sweet face, that was before I was born. And the sea, which appears to have changed less. And in that photograph, there is one more thing. Apart from these three girls, there is one more thing in the photograph, and it is the sea. And the poet says, which appears to have changed less. There is a tremendous change in the lives of these three girls. They have grown up, they got married, and the mother died also. But in that photograph, one more thing was there, that is sea, and it appears to have changed less. Because these natural objects, they don't change so drastically over a few years. There is hardly any noticeable change in them. But there is a tremendous change, noticeable one, in the lives of human beings. So sea is also there in the photograph, which appears to have changed less. And what did the sea do? Let's read in the last line. The sea washed their terribly transient feet. So it seems as if the immortal sea, immortal means the thing which never dies. So it seems as if the immortal sea is washing the feet of these human beings who have a very short span of life. So terribly means acutely, transient means short-lived. So humans' existence on this planet is very, very short-lived. So it seems as if the mighty, the immortal sea was washing the feet, the short-lived feet of the human beings. And the poetic device used here is alliteration, as ter sound is repeated in terribly transient. So it is alliteration. Also, it is transferred epithet, because not only the feet are short-lived, it is the entire human body which is short-lived. So but the poet has confined the adjective terribly transient to feet only. So I hope the first stanza is clear to you. Let's move on to the second stanza. Some 20-30 years later, she would laugh at the snapshot. See Betty and Dolly, she would say, and look how they dressed us for the beach. The sea holiday was her past. Mine is her laughter. Both thrive with the labored ease of loss. In this stanza, the poet tells us about the time when the mother got married and a daughter was born to her. So she says in the first line, the poetess says in the first line, some 20-30 years later. How old was the mother in the first stanza? When she talked about her mother in the first stanza, she was 12 years in that photograph. Now you add 20 or 30 years in 12 years. So that makes it 32 or 42 years. So after 20 or 30 years, when the mother would look at her photograph, she would remember that day when they all had gone for that picnic, and she would laugh at her photograph. Some 20-30 years later, she would laugh at the snapshot. Snapshot again refers to the photograph. So the mother would look at her photograph and she would laugh at it. And what would she say? She would say, "See Betty and Dolly." So the two girl cousins who were talked about in the previous stanza, the first stanza, so their names are Betty and Dolly. So these two girl cousins went along with the mother, and these are the three girls, Betty, Dolly, and the mother at the center, who were looking at the uncle and they were smiling, and the photograph was being clicked. "See how they dressed us for the beach." The mother would laugh at her photograph and she would say, "See how our parents got us dressed for the beach." Many a times we are not happy with the kind of uh, dresses that we used to wear as kids. The sea holiday was her past. Mine is her laughter. The poet says that that particular day when that photograph was taken is a thing of past for the mother. That day is never going to come back again in the life of the mother. It is lost in the past forever. And the poet says, "Mine is her laughter." Poet says, for me, to see my mother laugh at her photograph is a thing of past. Now her mother will never come back to her life again. She is dead. So that sea holiday was her mother's past, and her mother's laughter is the poetess' past. Then the poet says in the next line, "Both rye with the labored ease of loss." The meaning of rye is a feeling of disappointment. And the word both here refers to both the ladies, the poetess mother as well as the poetess. So what does this line mean? It means both rye with the labored ease of loss. It was very difficult for both the ladies to overcome their sense of loss, to overcome that feeling of losing their past. So labored means where you put your efforts. Ease of loss, they have come to terms with life with a lot of difficulty. It was very difficult for both the ladies to come in terms with life and to overcome their past, to forget their past. It really took a great effort on the part of the mother as well as the poetess to forget their past and move on. For the mother, it was difficult for her to forget her childhood days. And for the poet, it is very difficult to forget her mother. You never forget your mother. So I hope this second stanza is also clear to you. Let's move on to the third stanza and the final one. "Now she's been dead as many years as that girl lived. And of this circumstance, there is nothing to say at all. It's silence, silences." Now the third stanza is something like where the poet is feeling very sad. She is feeling very lonely. She has lost her mother and she is feeling very, very lonely. She says now she's been dead as nearly as many years as that girl lived. It means the girl in the photograph was 12 years old. So it's been nearly as many years. It's been nearly 12 years since my mother has died. So it's been like 12 years, the mother is dead. And she says, and of this circumstance, the poet says, if you ask me about my present moment, this circumstance refers to the present moment. You are asked a question, what does the word this circumstance refer to? So the word this circumstance refers to the present moment of the poet when she is remembering her mother. And of this circumstance, there is nothing to say at all. She is so overwhelmed with her emotions. The poet is so overwhelmed with a feeling of sadness, a sense of loss, that she has nothing to say about it. Sometimes you are so overwhelmed with the feelings of sadness or of happiness that you are unable to speak about it. You just feel sad. In the same way here, the poet is feeling very sad that she has lost her mother, and she says, if you ask me about my present moment, I have nothing to say. I have lost my mother. She is never going to come back again in my life, and I have nothing to say at all. There is nothing to say at all. It's silence, silences. The poet says, the silence around me silences me. There is no one who I could speak to. So the silence around me silences me. Even if I want to say something, there is no one who will listen to my story. There is no one who would listen to me. So the silence is so overpowering. The silence around me is so overpowering that it silences me as well. So that's the end of the poem class. And if you observe, the poem is divided into three different stanzas. So you can remember it as like the first stanza talks about the childhood of the mother. The second stanza talks about when the mother grew up and she got married and she had a daughter. And the third stanza is when the mother is no more, when the mother is dead. So I hope you have understood the poem. And on page number 12 we have some questions. I would like to just tell you the answers in a line or two and see if you have understood the poem or not yourself. So I'm reading on page number 12. Think it out. And the first question: what does the word cardboard denote in the poem? So I told you the word cardboard denotes the photograph in the poem. Why has the word been used? I told you it is used to denote the roughness. As the cardboard is rough, in the same way, the poet is also experiencing feeling of sadness. The second question: what has the camera captured? The camera has captured the photograph of the mother along with her two cousin sisters and the sea as well. The third question: what has not changed over these years? In all these years, what is that thing which has not changed much? It is the sea. The sea has not changed much over the years. Does this suggest something to you? Yes. It suggests that the natural objects are eternal, they are immortal like the sea, whereas the humans have a transient life. They have a very short-lived life on this planet. So a comparison or a contrast is drawn, not the comparison, a contrast is drawn between the natural objects like sun, the moon, the trees or the mountains and the human beings. The fourth question: the poet's mother laughed at the snapshot. What did this laugh indicate? The laugh indicated that the mother had a very happy childhood. She would love to see her photograph and she would laugh at her own photograph. The mother was happy to see the photograph. Next question, question number 5 is: what is the meaning of the line, both try with the labored ease of loss? It means that for both the ladies, the poet and her mother, for both the ladies, it was very difficult to overcome their loss, to overcome the feeling of losing something. And both of them have lost their past, so it was very, they really had to make a lot of effort to overcome their sense of loss. Sixth question is: what does this circumstance refer to? So this circumstance refers to the present moment of the poetess when her mother is no more. Seventh and the last question is: the three stanzas depict three different phases. What are they? So the first phase is the mother's childhood. The second phase is when the mother grew up and got married. She even had a daughter. And the third stage is when the mother is no more. She is dead. And I hope the poem is clear to you, and I have explained all the poetic devices also, and I have tried to cover up the question answers also. Hope you like this video, and if you have liked the video, do like, share and subscribe my channel. And yes, of course, do pass it on to your friends also who are in class 11th. This explanation may help them. Thank you so much for watching my video. Love you all. God bless you.